Discover the sinister secrets of a cursed painting. 7 terrifying mysteries finally revealed. Sarah never imagined she'd find something that would change her life forever at her own yard sale. The painting, glimmering and striking, screamed at her from the dust-laden table. It was an explosion of color, an intricate dance of ink and oil. But there was something sinister about it, a shadow lurking beneath the vibrant facade. She brushed off her instincts, telling herself it was just the stress of being a single mother in a neighborhood haunted by whispers. $20 later, it was hers. But from the moment she hung it in the living room, the air felt thick and electric. Night came, pressing against the windows like a suffocating shroud, and Sarah found herself trapped in sleepless torment. Vivid nightmares took over her nights. A twisted face, mouth agape in silent screams, echoed endlessly. The artist, she learned, had vanished years ago, much like the lives of families in Maplewood, faces smeared from the tapestry of their once idyllic community. She brushed her teeth one morning, the sink glimmering under fluorescent light, but a chill crawled up her spine. The whispers began then, thin and slinky, snaking through the corners of her mind as if the painting itself hummed with the sorrows of those it had devoured. Just the wind, she told herself. Until Lily, her sweet girl with bright eyes, pulled Sarah's heart into an icy grip with one chilling statement, "Mama, there's a man in my room." In her exhaustion, Sarah's sanity began to tremble. Downturned faces of neighbors lurking behind curtains turned into accusatory glares. She decided to find the truth behind the painting. Each uncovered detail felt like a sharp needle piercing her chest. Files of missing persons piled over the years, all linked back to the very street where she now lived. Families vanished, their laughter silenced, all wrapped in an inexplicable darkness. Anxiety clawed up her throat. Was her precious Lily next? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. These discoveries only intensified the darkness wrapping around Maplewood. Paranoia settled in like an unwelcome guest. Sarah approached her neighbors, collecting their stories, but met cold shoulders and narrowed eyes. Who was she to question? Old grudges rose, and their community, once united, spiraled into a cauldron of distrust. The police, dismissive and indifferent, waved her off as she pleaded for help. In the loneliness of her home, the painting's whispers grew louder, taunting and relentless. Shadows danced along walls as Lily's laughter turned into a cacophony of fear. Silent figures loomed, invisible thorns in their lives. The curse of the painting wove tighter around her family, and a sinister connection emerged, one that linked a respected leader of their community and the tainted artwork. As the final shreds of her reality began to unravel, she mustered the courage to confront this dark truth. Standing in the flickering light, shadows lurking around her, Sarah trembled with the knowledge that her family's fate hung by a thread. Could she trust her neighbors? The walls closed in, and as uncertainty cloaked her heart, she took a breath. This was only the beginning. What horror awaited her as night descended and the painting thirsted for its next victim? Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the painting, alive with its swirling colors, was watching her. The weight of its presence pressed down on her chest, suffocating. Shadows flickered from the corners of her eyes, threatening to swallow her whole if she dared to look too long. Lily's giggles had become less frequent. Now, her daughter hid under the quilt of her little bed, occasionally peeking over with wide, haunted eyes. Sarah tried to soothe her, running fingers through the girl's hair as she whispered reassurances. But the chill in the air was thick, and the walls seemed to pulse with an unseen heartbeat. One evening, determined to unravel the painting's secrets, Sarah ventured to the town library. Dust motes danced in the faded light as she combed through old newspapers and town records. The tales of vanished families echoed in her mind like a relentless drumbeat. Pages crinkled under her frantic fingers, revealing patterns, each family's disappearance overlapping like ghosts intermingling in the darkness. Then she found it. A faded article spoke of an annual festival, vibrant and full of life. It happened just before the disappearances started. The year after the festival was darkest. Sarah's heart raced. She stumbled upon a name repeatedly linked to both the festival and the cursed painting, Vincent Wren. The artist's genius morphed into something sinister. As she pieced it together, dread washed over her, perhaps his madness transferred through canvas. A cold gust rattled the windows, bringing with it a scent of decay. Goosebumps prickled her skin. She couldn't shake the impression that Vincent Wren was not just an artist, he was a predator, and the more she learned, the closer she drew to being his next meal. Returning home, her mind swirled with thoughts. The past was clawing its way into her present. As she crossed the threshold, a flicker of movement caught her eye. Lily's room. The door creaked open slightly, a dark gap beckoning her forward. The temperature plummeted, a frost creeping down the hallway, swirling dread around her throat. "Lily?" she called, her voice thin against the heavy silence. No response. Heart pounding, she crept closer. The floor creaked under her weight, each step amplifying her fear. Suddenly, a low whisper echoed from within the room, slithering around her ears like smoke. "Mama, come play." As if drawn by an invisible force, she swallowed her fear and pushed the door open wider. Everything was still. The shadows that had danced outside now loomed at the edges. The painting hung across from the bed, eerily illuminated by the moonlight, its colors swirling with a life of their own. She stepped nearer, entranced by the strange allure of the artwork. The faces it held twisted into something grotesque, formless screams trapped in vibrant agony. "Lily?" Sarah rasped, panic breaking through the wall of calm she tried to maintain. And then she saw it, Lily's small frame, almost luminous against the dark walls, grinning widely. Not her daughter's familiar smile. This was something else, something twisted. "Look, Mama." Lily's voice chimed, pointing at the painting. Sarah's breath hitched. Next to her daughter, an outline began to form, a dark figure within the canvas, creeping ever closer. It had hollow eyes, shadowy fingers stretching toward her family. The nightmare was manifesting, unraveling before her. "No! Get away!" Sarah yelled, lunging forward, but the darkness seemed to pull back, melding with the painting. The laughter twisted into a shrill echo, and Sarah could feel the painting trembling, as if it were alive. She clutched Lily, pulling her close. The quiet terror became overwhelming. But would they escape? Or would they become another pair of whispers haunting the empty streets of Maplewood? As the figure loomed closer, the whispering intensified, drowning out her thoughts. What would she do to save them? The horror thickened, overshadowing her resolve, as she realized she might have to make an unimaginable choice. What would it take to destroy the painting, to sever its hold on her? Life? As her heart raced with despair, the answer thrust itself into her mind in a flash: the festival. But it was weeks away, and she feared what would happen before then. Would she reach Vincent Wren in time? Would they survive the night? The painting's whispers answered her, taunting her retreating sanity, urging her into darkness. To unravel the curse, Sarah would have to delve deeper into the madness that gripped Maplewood. But could she face the horrors that awaited her? Or would it all come crashing down before she had the chance? The painting seemed to sing now, a twisted lullaby that wrapped around Sarah and Lily like a suffocating blanket. The air thickened, and the laughter of the figure danced around them, sharp and cruel. It was no longer just art, it was alive, hungry. Sarah tightened her grip on Lily, heart racing, pulse hammering in her ears. "What do you want?" she screamed into the darkness, desperation clawing at her throat. It was a futile question, but hysteria clouded her mind. The shadow within the painting shuddered and whispered back, though the words were lost in a hiss that sent chills cascading down her spine. Lily's gaze didn't waver. Her smile was unnerving, almost deranged. "Mama, it says we can play forever." "Play?" "No. We don't want to play. We want to leave. Panic surged through Sarah, a wild rat racing through her thoughts. She had to get them out. But how? The painting's colors twisted, morphing into faces, pleading, screaming. They were trapped, she realized, with no escape. Then the whispers grew more frantic, louder. They scraped against her sanity. Join us no. Sarah shouted, feeling as if the words might shatter the encroaching horror. She turned to her daughter, searching for a glimmer of Lily's familiar self beneath that detached expression. Lily, we need to get away from here. But her words fell flat, ignoring the very core of her daughter's being. And then the shadow in the painting surged forward, reaching, stretching, desperate. The air split with a hideous laughter that echoed off the walls. Fear doused every flicker of hope. Sarah thrust herself between the painting and Lily, instinct driving her closer to the nightmare. Don't you dare touch her. In that instant, something shifted. The darkness huffed, retreating slightly, as if surprised by her defiance. Sarah took a deep, quivering breath. This was her moment. She wanted to fight back, to reclaim her daughter and shatter the painting's hold. But how? The festival. The festival was their only hope. If she could just research more, if she could dig deeper into the past. But the laughter pulsed, drowning her thoughts. What would you give to save her? It cooed, silky smooth, almost prying open the cracks in her resolve. What would you sacrifice? Never, she spat, but doubt crept in. What if it was true? What if it took every ounce of her love, her very being? Suddenly, a sharp pulse of light burst from the painting. Sarah shielded Lily, watching as countless faces screamed and reached for them. It became clear, each face belonged to a child, a family, lost and desperate. Here were the souls who thought they could play forever. Release them. Sarah shouted, realization igniting her fury. She wanted to tear the painting apart, but the thought terrified her. What if it released the spirits? What if it unleashed something worse? Join us. The figures twisted into forms she couldn't recognize, and Lily, almost hypnotized, took a step toward them. Lily, no. Sarah's voice cracked, a raw edge of terror leaking through her words. As she lunged forward to pull her back, the painting pulsed again, this time with an ominous rhythm that resonated deep within her chest. The shadows thickened, a wave crashing against her sanity. Believe, they murmured, and Sarah felt her thoughts slipping, threads of her consciousness fraying like a torn fabric. Now, it was a race against time. The shadows pressed further, and the air grew heavy with despair. Her heart pounding, she realized sacrifice didn't always mean loss. Perhaps it meant something more. Would she sacrifice herself to save her daughter? Or would they both be swallowed by the insanity bleeding from the canvas? As fear threatened to pull her under, one thought rang true: she had to find Vincent Wren, but where would she even start? Each passing moment was one more second trapped within this nightmare, and the painting was growing stronger. Her pulse quickened as she took another look at the swirling hell within the frame. Time was running out. What terrible secret would she unveil next, and could she survive it? The darkness clung to Sarah like a ghost, suffocating and relentless. The edges of her vision warped as she gazed back at the painting, the colors swirling with malevolence, practically daring her to step closer. It throbbed, pulsating with a heartbeat that wasn't her own. Lily, listen to me. We have to get out of here. Sarah's voice trembled, as she forced herself to pull her daughter back. But Lily's eyes were vacant, entranced by the swirling horrors trapped within the artwork. Play, Mama, she whispered, almost dreamlike. We can be happy there. No. We'll be trapped, just like them. Sarah screamed, her throat raw. She could almost see the faces behind the glass, their mouths open in silent screams of torment, stretching in despair. The twisted lullaby filled her ears, a cacophony that threatened to fracture her sanity. Sarah turned, panic flooding her veins. The room felt smaller, the shadows closing in as if they could taste her fear. How could she save Lily when even she was losing hope? She remembered Vincent Wren. The history of that painting must be the key, yet where could she find him? Leah, a whisper echoed, chilling her. It was a voice she recognized, one that had drifted into her consciousness during sleepless nights. The tales told during the cold winter evenings became real. Stories of a family torn apart, of lives consumed. She stumbled back, shaking her head as if the motion could rid her of the creeping dread. Without thinking, she lunged forward, grabbing Lily's arm. "We're leaving. Now." But as she turned, the painting erupted with an intensity that seized the air and froze her in place. A fearsome figure, a silhouette shaped like a man, emerged from the canvas, his eyes glowing like twin embers piercing through the darkness. "Do you want to save her?" he asked, his voice smooth as silk yet filled with an undercurrent of menace. The laughter echoed again, a mocking sound that gripped her heart. "Get away from us!" Sarah shouted, her heart racing, chaos marking every thought. She pulled Lily closer, the child now looking from her to the shadowy man. "Let her choose," he hissed, extending a hand towards Lily. "You could join her. Forever. Lily, listen. This isn't a game. He's lying." Panic coursed through Sarah like ice in her veins. The painting contorted, swirls of color reaching for them, desperate fingers clawing at reality. Each face pressed against the canvas, pleading, taunting, swirling in an endless dance of despair. "Join us, little girl," they echoed in harmony, the air thick with their sorrow. "You belong with us." Deep within her, fear turned into an ember of defiance. "Lily, look at me. You have to fight it." But the look in Lily's eyes, a mixture of longing and curiosity, dropped Sarah into an abyss of dread. "Believe," the figure twisted with a grin, and the walls warped like a horrible dream. "Play with them. No pain. Only joy." As Sarah's tears blurred her vision, a sickening thought emerged from the chaos. What if it were true? What if, beneath the layers of fear and darkness, there was a way to protect Lily, a way to save her from this torment without sacrificing everything she was? "Sacrifice something small," the shadow whispered, seductively enticing, and the shadows grew thicker. "What do you value the most?" Fear clenched Sarah's stomach. She could feel something crawling inside her, the gnawing idea that the cost could be less than she imagined. She could feel her resolve crumbling, a dark itch on her mind. But what could the price be? "Think, Sarah, think," she urged herself. But the laughter soared higher, drowning her thoughts in madness. Desperation flooded her. She had to make a choice, and the weight of the figures pressed down, shadows curling around Lily, drawing her in closer to the abyss. Just then, she caught a glimpse of movement at the corner of the room, a flicker of a ghostly face, translucent eyes, watching her with grave concern. It was enough to break through the fog. "I'll find you, Vincent." A jolt surged through her. The shadows recoiled. But the question haunted her heart, what if Vincent was just another trick of the darkness? Or could he be the key to saving them both? With a sudden burst of courage, Sarah pulled Lily toward the door, forcing her to break from the sinister tug of the painting. Would they escape the fate waiting in the darkness, or find themselves ensnared within the very fabric of fear? Time was rapidly fading what lay beyond the door, and would it be salvation or a deeper descent into torment? The door creaked open, revealing a hallway shrouded in shadows. It was cold, almost alive, slithering against her skin. Sarah gripped Lily's hand tightly, each of her heartbeats echoing in rhythm with the pulse of dread that emanated from the painting behind them. "Stay close," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. It was not just a warning, it was her desperate plea to the universe that they would escape this nightmare. She pulled Lily down the corridor, her own footsteps muffled as if the very floor aimed to silence her. A flicker of light danced in her periphery. She hesitated, looking back over her shoulder. The painting seemed to lean toward them, its colors shifting like a live thing. The figure inside grinned wider, a mockery of sanity, as if it could sense her fear and feed on it. "Mommy, I don't want to leave," Lily murmured, her enthusiasm for the darkness still sparkling in her wide eyes, devoid of fear or sense. "No, Lily." Exasperation bubbled up, but she had to rein it back. She couldn't let her child see how close to the edge she truly was. Not now. Not when they were so close, yet still so far. They stepped deeper into the hallway, illuminated by weak flickers of light that barely dispelled the gloom. Each passing picture frame held eyes that glared at her as if willing her to return. Portraits lined the walls, twisted faces echoing their torment through centuries. "Help us," they seemed to whisper, but Sarah pressed on, breathing shallow and quick. Each step felt like a violation, each painted face a reminder of the price she could pay. "Mommy?" Lily's voice broke through her thoughts, bringing her back. There was a turn ahead. She could see the silhouette of another door at the end, but as she started toward it, a chill wrapped around her. "Lily, stay," Sarah began, but a wailing cry echoed from the doorframe just ahead, making her freeze. A shadow flitted across the wall, a frantic movement that struck a chord of panic. It was not the painting's familiar figure, this was a new darkness, hungry and wild. Something began to materialize from the shadows, something that thrummed with the heavy pulse of long-held despair. "Come play." It was a child's voice, sweet, like honey, yet laced with a grating malice. The light flickered perilously, and the air became thick with the lingering perfume of decay. "Run!" Sarah shouted, yanking Lily away, heart pounding as her instinct for survival kicked in. They leaned into a desperate sprint down the corridor. The wailing intensified, mingling with laughter that grated against her nerves. The door appeared closer as the shadows surged behind them. Dark tendrils reached out, clawing at her hem, tugging, threatening to pull them back into the dark oblivion. She could feel their chill wrapping around her ankles, a paralyzing grip that sought to keep them forever lost. "Mommy, I'm scared." In Lily's voice, Sarah heard both enthrallment and terror, a conflict she wasn't sure how to resolve. "Just hold on," she yelled, focusing on that final door, and the barely discernible light around its edges. With one last surge of will, she pushed through the incoming darkness, pulling Lily along. With an ear-splitting scream, she flung the door open, and they tumbled through, falling into chaos. The room beyond felt different. The walls pulsed with energy, alive and preying upon her senses. The door slammed shut behind them, and silence enveloped the space, heavy and suffocating. Sarah blinked, taking in their new surroundings. Forgotten memories filled the room, dusty furniture, remnants of a life that should have long vanished. But in the center, on a stand, was an identical painting, glowing with an ethereal light, the faces within less tormented, yet just as twisted. "What is this place?" Sarah whispered, dread creeping back in her chest. "Mommy," Lily's voice trailed off as she moved closer to the painting, captivated. "No. Don't." Sarah cried out, her heart racing again. As if in response, the room began to tremble, walls cracking, ancient dust swirling around them. From deep within the floorboards, an echoing laughter resonated dark and twisted, carrying with it the promise of despair. Suddenly, the doors they had come through shattered into splinters, and the painting's light grew blinding. "Lily, please, come back," Sarah begged, thrusting her arms out, desperate to pull her daughter from the depths. What awaited them in the heart of this new darkness? Would they find salvation, or was this the ultimate deception? With each moment ticking away, the choice slipped further from her grasp, swallowed by the very shadows they had escaped. The light from the painting flared, rippling like water disturbed. Shadows danced around them, mocking and twisting, as Sarah lunged toward Lily. But her child seemed entranced, eyes wide and unblinking, reflecting the sinister glow emanating from the canvas. "Lily." The desperation in Sarah's voice was raw, piercing the weighty silence, but it felt like her words were swallowed by the oppressive gloom that thickened with every passing second. Time stretched and contorted. The walls shuddered, an ancient hunger crackling to life. The painted faces within the central artwork began to animate, eyes flickering with a malevolence that made Sarah's skin crawl. The laughter resonated again, creeping into her bones, inducing a shiver that ran from her spine to the tips of her fingers. "Mommy, look!" Lily whispered, stepping closer, unconsciously drawn to the horror. "Don't!" Sarah's breath hitched. The room shook violently, as if responding to her panic. Dust rained down like tiny specters, obscuring the air between them, but then came a voice, a whisper at first, low and seductive. "We're just like you, little girl. Play with us, forever." The air grew damp, and a sickly sweetness hung around them, as if the room breathed in the dread. Sarah slammed her hand against the wall, trying to ground herself, to find something solid in this surreal nightmare. "You are not playing with anything. Come back, Lily." Her heart screamed for her daughter, yet Lily turned, entranced by the flickering figures in the painting. They danced now, swirling around her like moths drawn to a flame. Grins split wide across their painted faces, celebrating the boyish laughter that clawed at the edge of sanity. "No. Come on, baby. We have to go, now." As Sarah pushed against the invisible force that seemed to tether her to this place, she felt it, a cold, creeping dread that snaked around her ankles, tugging insistently, lashing at her senses. Suddenly, the painting shifted, colors swirling into grotesque forms that twisted in discord. One face emerged clearer than the rest, a woman with hollow eyes and a smile that betrayed only madness. "Help us," she crooned, her voice cutting through the air like glass. "We want to be free." Sarah's heart sank. Was this a warning or a plea? She couldn't tell anymore. Let her go. But it was too late. The room responded like a living thing, pulling at them, moaning with the memories of the lost souls trapped within the artwork. The laughter exploded around them, vibrant and chaotic. Shadows lunged, penetrating the air, wrapping like cold fingers around her wrist, dragging her toward the painting's edge. "Mommy!" Lily shrieked, her voice slicing through the hysteria, snapping Sarah into fierce action. She lunged forward, eyes wild. "Lily, I'm coming." With every ounce of strength, she pulled her daughter back, even as the shadows intensified, whipping around them in a furious gale, pulling, clawing, insatiable. The painting trembled, swelling with an angry wind. "You belong with us. Join us." The voices blended into an unholy chorus, drowning out all reason, beckoning them into the vibrant chaos that in one swift motion. Sarah threw herself in front of Lily, shielding her as she felt the darkness press tight against her back, eager to consume them both. Time blurred, heart racing, as adrenaline surged. "Fire!" A voice screamed internally, urging her to ignite something, to release the light. "No!" Sarah shouted against the roar. "We will not." Yet as she fought the shadows, they began to alter. Forms sprouted from the depths, clawed hands reaching, pulling as she struggled. Fear and panic surged in equal measure. Then, Lily spoke again, a hint of mischief lacing her tone. "But, Mommy, they're so lonely." Sarah's gaze locked onto Lily's, and the world narrowed around them. What was happening? "They want to trap you, sweetie." "No, no, no." But the pull grew tenser. She could feel the darkness change, clinging, promising, and consuming. And just as things threatened to spiral completely out of control, the painting erupted with laughter, shattering the heavy silence. Like glass breaking. "Join us," the figures chanted, as the pulse of the room became deafening, the very walls thrumming with their anticipation. Could she protect Lily? The line between salvation and damnation blurred. Would they find a way out, or was the lure too strong, too enticing to resist? The shadows drew closer, and Sarah felt the grip tighten like a noose. Lily hold on. Would she lose her to the promise of friends that waited just behind the cruel canvas? Somewhere throbbing deep in the chaotic sound was the answer, riding on a wave of chilling laughter. But was it too late to find it? The darkness swirled like a living nightmare around them, twisting and curling, wrapping Sarah and Lily in an icy embrace. "No!" Sarah roared, her voice cracking under the weight of despair. "I want to let you take her." The shadows didn't care. They tightened their grip, slipping like smoke through her fingers. Lily stepped forward, seemingly oblivious to her mother's terror, her little face aglow with a curious delight. "They want to play, Mommy. They're not scary." Her innocence twisted like a knife in Sarah's heart. "Lily!" Sarah cried, fear surging anew. "You must listen to me. They want to trick you." But Lily giggled, her laughter mingling with the mocking chorus from the painting. Her tiny hand reached out, fingers stretching toward the grotesque faces who beckoned with gleeful, distorted smiles. Whispers floated through the air, promising unending fun, new friends, an eternity of joy that felt so wrong. "Help us, join us," the voices echoed, a dark symphony that drummed into Sarah's skull, each beat a reminder of the horror that lay before them. Her throat went dry as they became more insistent. Suddenly, Sarah's vision blurred, and the world shifted like sand beneath her feet. The painting pulsed, the figures stretching and warping until the edges of light and dark began to bleed together. She felt her own fears rise, a tempest of memories lost in the arms of this malignant force. "No," she thought. "I won't let it happen. Not now. Not ever." In a flash of adrenaline, she lunged toward Lily. "We need to go. Now." She twisted, yanking Lily back, but the shadows screamed in protest, battling against her resolve. Sarah scooped her daughter up, holding her close, but the darkness howled, furious at her defiance. "Mommy!" Lily whimpered, sensing the shift, yet still caught in the allure of the canvas. Sarah could see confusion etched on her child's face through the haze of fear. The shadows slid closer, tantalizing, with promises that slipped through the air like a siren's song. Sarah pressed her cheek against Lily's hair. "Stay with me, baby," she whispered fiercely, breath hot against her daughter's ear. Gritting her teeth, she fumbled through her pockets, desperate to find anything, a shard of hope, a flicker of light to ward away the encroaching darkness. Her fingers brushed against something sharp. Heart pounding, she pulled out a thin, jagged piece of glass. A broken mirror. Who knew how it had ended up in her pocket, but it would have to do. She raised it, catching the faint reflections of the grotesque figures dancing behind her. "Get back!" Sarah screamed, wielding the shard like a weapon. The shadows hesitated, momentarily recoiling from the glint of light on the glass. But the laughter rose again, vicious and taunting. "That won't save you." Sarah's mind raced, desperately searching for an escape as the shadows lunged once more furious now. They had tasted her fear, and now they were insatiable. "Mommy, I want to play," Lily murmured, a tone of longing slipping through, almost enchantingly sweet but drenched in terror. Sarah's heart sank. "No. Listen. They'll take you. They're using you." But the pull was relentless. The painted figures surged forward, every brushstroke of color shimmering with a promise of something darkly wonderful. With a primal scream, Sarah propelled herself backward, dragging Lily with her, trying to escape the suffocating grip. For a moment, time seemed suspended, but then, with a guttural roar, the room twisted, and the painting shattered into thousands of glistening shards. A frightening and beautiful explosion, shadows recoiled, the malicious laughter faltering into desperate cries. But amid the chaos, Sarah's heart plummeted as she locked eyes with the central figure, the woman with hollow eyes, the one who had carved hopelessness into her very soul. "You cannot escape," she hissed, and impossibly, the glass fragments began to morph into jagged hands, reaching out with sinister intent. "Run!" Sarah shouted, her voice strained with urgency. But could they escape the truth buried in those painted depths? Would the darkness consume them before they found the way out? As the walls seemed to close in, Sarah could feel panic drowning her resolve. Was there truly a way to break free from the sinister grip of the painting, or was it too late? In the amalgamation of light and shadow, a direction became clear, but was it salvation or damnation? What waited just beyond the threshold? As the room heaved with anxiety, Sarah held her breath, teetering on the brink of fate. Would they emerge from this nightmare, or would they join the chorus of the lost souls forever whispered within the paint? With trembling hands and heart pounding, she felt a decision clawing its way to the surface. Just as the jagged hands reached for Sarah and Lily, a blinding light erupted from the shards of glass, enveloping them in a radiant cocoon that pushed back the darkness. Sarah felt a surge of energy, raw and electric, coursing through her veins. It was as if the light was feeding off her fear, transforming it into strength. With a fierce determination, she tightened her grip on Lily, ready to sprint toward the exit. The edges of the room were shifting, colors swirling chaotically. The exit loomed far in the distance, but every step felt like a battle against the dark tide trying to pull them back. "Mommy!" Lily cried, her voice shaking. "What is happening?" "Hold on tight!" Sarah shouted, her throat raw with panic. "We're getting out of this." They ran. The light refracted from the glass shards, catching the grotesque figures mid-lunge. The laughter turned to fury, echoing with a painful discord. Each time the light pierced the darkness, the female figure with the hollow eyes shuddered but did not relent. "You will not leave!" she screeched, spitting rage. Sarah felt dread creeping back, thick as fog. The walls shuddered and began to melt, colors blending into incoherent images of despair. But they had to keep moving. "Just a little farther," she urged, breathless. More shadows emerged, spilling from the edges of the room, drawn to the brilliance of the light like moths to a flame. They crawled over each other, desperate to reclaim their lost plaything, their lost joy. The light flickered, dimming against the relentless onslaught. With every inch forward, Sarah's heart reeled, each beat echoing in her ears like a warning bell. They were losing it. "Join us, little girl," one shadow hissed, its voice dripping with temptation. "We can show you joy beyond your wildest dreams." "No!" Sarah screamed, fighting against the urge to listen. "We're not your toys." Yet as they drew nearer to the exit, the promises multiplied, vibrant and treacherous. Pictures of a perfect world, where Lily could play, explore, and laugh, danced in the air. "Don't you want to play?" they taunted, weaving urges into a sickening melody. Suddenly, Sarah saw a flicker in Lily's eyes, a reflection of doubt. In that moment, she reached deep within herself, channeling every maternal instinct, every ounce of love she had for her daughter. "Lily!" she shouted, locking eyes with her, hands gripping her shoulders. "Come back to me. Remember who you are." The laughter faltered, as if the shadows hesitated against the strength of a mother's love. Lily blinked, a confusion washing over her innocent face. "Mommy?" "Yes." "Focus on me," Sarah urged, pulling her daughter close, enveloping her in warmth amidst the cruel coldness that the shadows emitted. But the momentary lapse gave the figures strength. With a deafening roar, the shadows lunged again, the girl with hollow eyes rallying them. "You cannot escape this reality. You belong to us." As they reached the room's edge, the lighthouse of light guiding them, Sarah felt the darkness siphoning her strength away, her limbs heavy, as if dragging through molasses. With sharp clarity, she understood. They'd only just scratched the surface of this nightmare. Sarah surged forward, mustering the last of her energy, crying out, "We accept no more games." She hurled the shard of glass behind her, a last act of defiance. It flew through the air, catching the fading light and shattering into more pieces that instigated another explosion of brilliance, blinding the shadows once and for all. Fragments flew everywhere, and as each shard pierced the darkness, screams erupted that echoed sharply. It was a symphony of agony mixed with triumph, like fireworks filled with terror bursting in the sky. But just as hope began to pulse through her veins, she felt a strong pull at her side. The hollow-eyed woman was grasping Lily's hand, one last attempt to drag her back. The shadows scintillated around them, a vortex of despair. "Lily!" "No!" Sarah cried, reaching out in desperation. But then there was silence. The darkness quivered as if waiting for something to snap, to burst. What lay beyond could be freedom, or maybe something more horrifying. Would Sarah manage to save her daughter, Or would the final act of defiance bring them both deeper into chaos? The answer loomed, teetering on the edge of the shattered canvas. The room trembled, suspended between torment and escape. Sarah's heart raced as she reached for Lily, feeling the cold essence of the shadow wrap around her daughter. Just as their fingers almost interlocked, a shudder ran through the darkness. The hollow-eyed woman's grip tightened, her laughter a cacophony of horrifying delight. "Come back to us, sweet child," the voice slithered through the air, oozing with a sinister charm. "You belong here with us." "No!" Sarah yelled, forcing her feet to move forward. The exit flickered like a distant oasis, and with every pulse, it flickered further away. "Mommy, it's so pretty here," Lily pleaded, her voice wavering. "I want to stay." The words cut like glass deep into Sarah's heart. The shadows were whispering, weaving lies with strands of truth, enticing her little girl with illusions of joy. "Please, Lily. Remember your favorite playground? The park? The swings?" She fought to keep her voice steady, to keep her daughter anchored in reality. "Don't you want to play all day?" The shadows coaxed, darting around them, their forms twisting grotesquely. "We can be together forever." Lily's eyes, once bright and full of love, glimmered with uncertainty. Sarah felt the walls of despair closing in on her. The weight of the shadows grew heavier, slowing her advance. She shrieked, "No! You can't have her." The light dimmed again, leaving only flickers glancing off glass. Desperation clawed at Sarah, a primal urge to save her child at all costs. Suddenly, a bright flash ignited from the shards scattered around them, illuminating the darkness with a fierce glow. Sarah stumbled back, shielding her eyes, but when she took a peek, she realized the figures contorted with agony, trying to shield themselves from the radiance. "Lily! Now!" Sarah shouted, using the brief moment of distraction to pull her daughter back to her. In one swift motion, she felt Lily's small hand slip from the shadow's grip. "I'm here, Mommy!" her daughter cried out, a hint of clarity returning. As they rushed forward, the shadows roared, a deafening sound that bounced off decaying walls. They poured ahead like a wave, desperate and hungry. Sarah gritted her teeth, pulling Lily against her side, pushing for the exit. "Faster! We have to go!" Just as they neared the entrance, the hollow-eyed woman erupted from the shadows, standing tall and menacing. "You cannot escape, Sarah. You failed the others. You will fail her too." The air grew thick with an eerie dread. Every fiber of Sarah's being screamed that the woman was right. How could she fight against something so old, so powerful? A flicker of doubt threatened to blanket her hope. But then, in the depths of her heart, a fire ignited. The memories of laughter, playdates, birthday parties, they surged fiercely within her. "No! I will not give in!" she thundered, the words spilling from her like a spell. With newfound resolution, she flung the remaining glass shards ahead, each arc lighting up the darkness with brilliant sparks. Shadows recoiled, their desperate cries blending into a haunting chorus of rage and sorrow, yet, the hollow-eyed woman remained, her eyes boring into Sarah's soul, fusing guilt and fear. "Join us, Sarah, or lose your child forever." The exit loomed, tantalizingly close, but could they make it? Was there truly freedom waiting beyond, or only more torment? Just as they reached the threshold, time suspended, a chilling realization pierced Sarah's mind. This wasn't just a battle, it was the beginning of something much larger, something unimaginable. "Get ready, Lily," she whispered, breath shaky. "We need to jump." But leaping into the unknown beckoned unfathomable fears. What awaited them on the other side? Would they find sanctuary or plunge deeper into the void? The answer loomed like an open wound aching for the next breath. As shadows writhed and strained against the brilliance radiating from the shards of glass, Sarah felt a surge of adrenaline pumping through her veins. "Now, Lily! Jump!" Without hesitation, they propelled themselves forward, their bodies colliding with the threshold of light. The painting's moans echoed behind them, resonating with fury as if desperately clawing to retain its captives. In that blinding instant, they crossed over a flash, an eruption of bright energy consuming them before reality collapsed into darkness once more. When they landed, it was abrupt. Cold air hit Sarah's face. She gasped as her surroundings came into focus. They stood in a small, empty room, the walls painted white, a stark contrast to the horror they had just escaped. But reassurance didn't surge through her, her heart pounded in her chest, tethered to fear and uncertainty. "Mommy?" Lily's voice trembled, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "Where are we?" The familiar warmth of her daughter's hand calmed Sarah, even as her own heart raced. I think we're safe." The words felt heavy in the air, a fragile promise. Around them was a serene silence, muted but comforting. However, they both sensed the lingering weight of dread, the threat of the painted nightmare still lurking in their minds. "Do you remember the park?" Sarah gently nudged, conjuring memories of laughter and sunlight filtering through the leaves. "The swings? Remember how we'd race each other?" Lily's brow furrowed, confusion knitting her features. "Mommy, it felt weird back there. I wanted to play." "I know, honey," Sarah replied, her own relief turning to dread. "The shadows, they tried to trick us. They wanted you to stay forever." The thought made her sick. For a heartbeat, the room felt too quiet, as though they were being watched. Tiny hairs prickled on Sarah's arms, an unshakable instinct. "We can't let them take you again, Lily." Resolute, she took a step forward. Suddenly, the pristine atmosphere shifted. The walls trembled, flickering and twisting. Splinters of light from the painting behind them shimmered against the white, pulsing ominously. "No. Not again!" Sarah yelled, panic flooding her. She took Lily's hand. "Run!" They sprinted towards the door at the far end of the room. Each step felt heavy, weighed down by the echoes of the past. "Get out!" But just as they reached the door, it splintered open, revealing the familiar darkness from which they had fled. There he stood, the hollow-eyed figure from the painting, looming like a malevolent specter. "You cannot escape, Sarah. You're forever tied to the curse." Heart racing, Sarah stepped between it and Lily, desperation pushing her forward. "I will not let you take her." With achieved clarity, she squeezed the sharp piece of glass, its reflection catching a sliver of light. "If you want her, you'll have to take me first." Lily clutched her mother's leg, the fear palpable. Sarah turned to her, silently telling her to be brave. "You are stronger than this. Remember who you are." "Mommy, I'm scared." Lily cried, tears filling her eyes. "Then you have to fight too, baby. We do this together." With a fierce resolve that cut through the darkness, Sarah hurled the glass shard straight at the figure. As it collided, a blinding light burst forth, illuminating every corner of the room. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from the purity of its glow. "You will destroy everything you love." The figure howled, but Sarah's heart pulsed with the fire of a mother's love. "No. Nothing can take my daughter," she shouted, and the light's warmth enveloped them, encasing them in safety. The hollow-eyed figure, now shriveling in brightness, screeched as shadows twisted and melted into vapor. Sarah felt a rush of triumph as she gathered Lily into her arms. "We did it." Pulses of bright energy filled the room, the walls fading, and she felt a rush beneath her feet, the ground shifting gently like waves in the ocean. And then, they emerged into a sun-soaked park, green grass stretching endlessly, laughter surrounding them like a warm hug. Kids played, the sound of joy uplifting. Lily gasped, eyes wide with wonder. "Mommy? Are we really?" "Yes, sweetie," Sarah breathed, her heart swelling. "We're free." The darkness was washed away, banished to the corners of her mind. They ran into the sun, where laughter intertwined with freedom, a world waiting for them, but in a distant corner of her heart, Sarah felt an echo, a reminder of darkness that would always linger. For now, though, they were together, hands clasped tightly, laughter ringing loud against the backdrop of a vibrant tomorrow. And finally, they could breathe easy. Don't forget, guys, if you loved this ending, you need to subscribe now to the channel. It's the moment to show your support so you won't miss out on any more exclusive stories like this one. Smash that like button now to really feed the algorithm. I want to see you flooding the comments section with your thoughts and theories about the conclusion. And please, don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this unforgettable ending. Your support matters, and only true fans understand the importance of standing together.